Welcome to the WhatintheShibal podcast with Soogia and Ed.
We're just two Asian Americans talking shit about shit.
Always.
Hi, Ed. How are you?
Good. How was your week?
Oh, my week was...
Got you first.
Fucking shit. That's my line. It's good. My kids are both sick now.
That's good.
I think we talked about last week. No, my week was good. The sick part made it not as good. Last week, you'll remember my husband was sick, and that was its own thing.
Then he osmosised it.
Osmosis lead? Osmosized?
This is not the weed episode, I swear.
It might as well be. Yes, I guess he got my kids. I don't know. Somebody got my kids sick. So there's been, sad girls and fevers and puke. You called me last night and I was literally in the throes of holding a bowl for my daughter while she puked. I was like, Ed's just got to wait. You're just going to have to wait. But you know.
Because if I heard that, I would have been like,
I was like, hey, Ed, what's going on? No, I'm fine. Everything's great. Fortunately, they're both feeling a little bit better. So.
Are they? Because your older daughter, I just heard her on the phone a couple minutes ago, and she sounded like...
Okay, but she's the older, and anytime she's sick, she's like her dad. She just milks it because she gets so much attention from me, and it's a lot of oh honey, are you okay, what do you need? And she knows I'll get her whatever she wants, and she knows that now is the time to capitalize on my empathy,
like all the ice creams.
Yeah, the ice creams, the lemonades that she's not usually allowed to drink, and that kind of stuff. So
sugar.
Yeah, right. I was like, here, have a shot of ginger. She's like, I'll have a lemonade. I was like, I can't. Fine. Anyway,
you can get her watermelon ginger lemonade.
Ooh, that sounds delicious.
It is delicious.
Well, how was your week?
It was good.
Great. Are you sure? That sounded like a question.
I don't even really remember this week, to be honest with you.
Some weeks are a blur, and that's just how life can be.
I don't remember what happened this week. I think I watched a lot of TV.
Okay.
Jury Duty.
Oh my God, I love that show so much.
Yeah. So this week was just me just tuning out because I needed a break. But Jury Duty is hilarious. You saw it, right?
I saw it. I just finished it yesterday. I love that show. Are you guys watching Jury Duty? I hope you guys are all watching it. I thought it was the most clever, funny, and surprisingly heartwarming show.
Yeah.
When I first started, I was really worried. Spoilers, maybe, kind of. I'll try not to. I was really worried that it was going to be this show that just embarrasses
the
Ronald.
guy. Yeah.
And I liked him so much. I was so nervous for him. But as the show progressed, he just looks like the hero, and he just looks like the kind of guy that everybody wants to be friends with. I love him so much.
Yeah, I'm just I don't know how I would feel if it comes out that it was scripted.
Well, it was kind of.
Well,
yes, his part?
I mean his part. If that part was fake, I'll be very upset.
I don't think so.
Angry upset. Yeah. I would just be disappointed.
I don't think so. You watch the last episode and they kind of show how everything was done. I feel like unless he's a really great actor, I don't see how it could have been. But I don't know that I could see a show that was cast better than the way they cast this show. Every single person on it was so perfect for who they were.
Including Ronald.
I know. They got so lucky. It could have been anybody.
This one's a bit of a spoiler, but it happens, I think, in the first episode. Mm-hmm. But it also helps to catch you right on in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because one of the actors on the show, so if you don't know the premise, everyone on the show is an actor except this one central person. Right. And from his perspective, it is a reality show.
About a court case.
About a court case that's not real, with not a real judge, none of the jurors. And they're all serving on the jury. And before they're trying to select the jury members, and one of the actors asks the non-actor, his name's Ronald, they go, how do I get out of jury duty? And this is why I say, if I find out this is scripted, I'll be very upset, because he just magically brings up the Family Guy episode.
Right.
Where Peter Griffin pretends to be racist to get out of jury duty.
Right.
So,
but as somebody who's been asked to be on juries, I've heard people say that, just pretend you're racist and they'll let you go or whatever. Yep. And I was like, oh, so I think it was, I don't know if they set it up for him to say that, or we're hoping that he'd say that, but when he did.
No, because at the end, remember, they show that part as it happens in the
they're
back.
Oh my God, I can't believe he said it.
Yeah, and they're oh my God, yeah. The look on their faces is jackpot, this is amazing.
It was such a good show. And it was the kind of show that you could like watch and like engage in, but it didn't require your whole brain. And like sometimes I don't have a whole brain to give something or most things. So it's a comfort show. I feel like I'm going to watch it over and over. And I feel like you're going to, in watching the other characters as you now rewatch it, I think you'll see more things and catch new things that I think were really fun. James Marsden was amazing too.
Yeah, he was actually pretty hilarious.
He was so good at being so douchey.
Yeah, that guy's like a sleeper great actor.
I think so too. Like he's been in a million things, like a million things, but he's not like a household name. I remember him most from that show Dead to Me. Did you watch that?
I love that show.
Oh, me too.
I love that show so much.
It's so good. I feel like Christina Applegate, if you're watching, I feel like you and I were meant to be best friends. So call me girl.
Yeah.
I love her.
Yeah, that show was hilarious. It was very well written.
Oh my God, it was so good. It was, and I think they ended it perfectly. I thought like some shows, like they just, like we talked about last week, they like jumped the shark and you're like, yeah, it's time to wrap it up. But like, what was it, 2 seasons?
Yeah, through 3.
3? Was it 3?
Maybe 4.
No, I don't think it got that many.
No, yeah, it did.
Did it? Mm-hmm. Well, they cleaned it up and like it like ended and it was just like nicely, tightly wrapped, perfect.
Yeah.
I hit the microphone every fucking time.
Yeah.
So if you hear a bong, that's me.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm so bad. I'm very animated and I speak with my hands.
I try to edit most of them out, but sometimes Susie hits it as she's talking. I'm like, well, do I delete the word?
I'm a very animated speaker. If you watch my videos, even sometimes I'm like, calm down. Like, put your hands down. I can't. Like, I just am one of those, you know.
It helps me think, I think. Because I don't know.
Like the windmill?
Yeah. When people, if you ever, no one's ever called me out yet, but if you watch my TikToks, my right hand at the bottom does this. Because it helps me think and keep my pace.
I was going to say, like, if you do that too much, you start, like, rising out of your seat. You're just, like, propelling yourself out of the frame.
Just floating away.
Which I guess brings me to TikTok. It's been a crazy week on TikTok, don't you think?
Yeah.
Man, I have seen so many, like, super viral videos about, like...
anti-Asian stuff, which is weird. It's like the week before AAPI month. It's
which, by the way, happy AAPI month.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
you too.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like it almost is a setup sometimes. Like, I feel like maybe we're on the Truman Show. You know what I mean? Like, how is it so cleanly set up that the week before we're supposed to celebrate our heritages and all of our progress in this country, do we watch videos of girls taunting 60-year-old women on vacation in Italy?
It's insane.
It's insane. In case you haven't watched the video, are we going to show the video?
Yes.
Here it is.
Yeah.
I'm Vanna White now. Cling.
So in the video, the person who's recording the video is the girlfriend of the son. Okay, so let me rewind. There are 3 people on vacation from what I understand. It is a 60-year-old Chinese woman, her son, and the son's girlfriend who is not Chinese, but she is, I believe, she is a woman of color. I think she's
Middle Eastern.
Yeah, I think she was Pakistani, which
I think that sounds
technically means that she is Asian.
Yeah.
So they were an Asian, group there of different, flavors, shall we say.
Varieties.
Yes, more appropriate word. Brain fart. But there are these 3 Italian girls sitting on the train. And from what the original poster, the girlfriend stated, was that this was like the latter end of what they were experiencing the whole train ride. Mm-hmm. And she actually said that it was like the least vulgar and offensive of the things that they were saying because the girls were aware that they were being recorded.
Right.
They decide it's hilarious to say ni hao and then... but like not even ni hao appropriately, but like in a mocking, almost like demonic voice.
Right.
I mean, the one
multiple
literally,
times.
the one literally, she says it and it almost sounds like she's saying nah, but I'm pretty sure she's saying like nya.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right,
and then they're like giggling and laughing and like literally demonizing it.
Right. Well, they're very clearly like racially, like it's like all this like racially motivated antagonism. Yeah. They're racially antagonizing this group. It's very, very obvious. And anybody who has ever been racially antagonized can very clearly recognize it, even though somebody will try to gaslight you and say, no, I was just saying hello.
Yeah. And I feel I feel like the video is like pretty self-explanatory. The thing that I really want to address is the comment section. And I think that's the reason why I had a hard time saying what happened this week, because like all I remember is spending hours just like arguing with people, and like not even arguing. I'm trying to put them in their place, but then they respond with something super ignorant, and then I'm like, I can't let that go unaddressed, you know. So then I address it, and then they say something else really ignorant, and then I'm like, my OCD is driving me insane.
I know, man. The comment section is such a fucking cesspool, and I sometimes just can't stay out of it. But I know better. Yeah, I know better. People in the comment section are there to purely just bait you and like make you engage in the conversation that you don't want to have, and I still do it, and I hate it.
Yeah, but there's like in that video specifically, at least with mine, there is just so many people being like, "That's not racist. They're just being, you know, immature and not smart." And I literally combat all of them with, then please explain to me in what scenario where it's respectful, to mock someone's language and laugh the whole plane ride. The train ride, the train ride, because it's like, it's not an or situation. You can be racist and immature.
Right, absolutely. And those two things usually are, they go together. Also, the thing that I don't understand is like, they're just young girls. They're immature. Okay, well, let me give them one step towards maturity. Let me explain to them why this is a problem and why people are calling them out for it. Like, let's help them in their journey to maturation. Like, this is going to help them. Like, just ignoring it isn't going to help anybody. No. Right?
When I was in my 20s, I was also immature.
Yeah.
And like, for instance, I like peed on my RA's door.
Gross.
He was an asshole. He literally would go around and try to get kids kicked out.
What a dick.
Like for instance, like on a Friday night, one time him and his friend would literally patrol the dorms, and if they heard a party, one time they literally waited outside the door for close to an hour, waited for someone to open the door to go to the bathroom, and rode up every single person in there. And the school had a 3 strikes and you're out rule.
That's crazy.
And one of the kids that was about to be his 3rd strike, and he was pleading with him to not, please just, you know, I'll stop, like whatever. Still didn't. So like, you know, me being the hero complex person that I was in a misguided, immature state, I was like, I'm going to pee on his door. I was also, you know, a raging alcoholic.
Were you reprimanded? Did you get caught?
That's my point. I got kicked out of school.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. That wasn't the only thing. That wasn't the only thing. But I did a lot of other shenanigans.
You are such a rebel.
Yeah.
So many
misguided.
So many layers.
Misguided. The, you know, whatever I am now.
The journey. That was the step to the journey.
But that's my point. Is that
it's
like
the journey.
You do you know, fucked up shit.
Right.
And you're going to find out. Yeah.
You're probably not going to pee on any doors in the future.
Right.
I would imagine.
But there should be consequences, whether it's immature or not, because you have to have consequences to learn and grow.
Right. And I think the thing about these kinds of videos and, you know, making, you know, responding to them is a lot of people will say something like, you know, leave them alone. They weren't being racist, or they weren't being antagonizing or whatever. And it's like, okay, but let me just kind of give you a little insight into my experiences that I've actually lived through to show you how I know what I know and how this has now informed me on my worldview. And because of that, I can tell you from the things that I've experienced that it is. Like the guy on the train. There's another video of an Asian girl who's just riding a train, I think in London. She's doing nothing. And this businessman walks by her and says, "Ni hao."
Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa. There, that's the right one. And she says, she follows him and goes, "Why did you say konnichiwa to me?" And he goes, I do business in Hong Kong. And she's like, the fuck? Like, so I know, living in the body and face that I live in, people have done that to me. How many times has it happened to you?
All the time.
All the time. It still happens.
You can count it in weekly occurrences almost.
And in no instance where that happens is the person either doing one of a few things, you know, trying to guess what I am, assume what I am, or just straight up just want to antagonize me. And sometimes it's kind of all of those things at once, you know? And I have had experiences where somebody will say, you know, ni hao or konnichiwa to me, and I'm like, why did you say that? Like, just say hello. You can just say hello.
And people will always try to gaslight you and be like, they're just trying to appreciate what your culture is. Like, imagine you're just living your day,
right?
And someone comes up to you and you go, "Oh my God, you're so short. I'm just trying to appreciate short people." No, you're not.
Right.
No,
exactly.
You're not.
Exactly.
You're literally pulling me out of my day to use me to somehow make yourself feel better.
Right. To exert power over me in some way or another.
Exactly.
And also, it's like, if you want to engage with me and learn about my culture, you should probably know a few things first. Firstly, what the fuck is my culture? If you don't know where or whom I'm from, how can you appreciate that? So firstly, you'd have to find out if I am what you think I am, Korean, Chinese, Vietnamese, whatever. And secondly, if you, like, so many people are like, well, maybe he just wanted to practice the language with her. First of all,
why is that her burden?
First of all, do you even know that she's Japanese? You don't. Secondly, what makes you think she wants to fucking teach you? Or even more importantly, that she even knows the language in which you want her to teach.
Right.
There are lots of people who look like us who don't speak another language.
Hire a fucking tutor.
Fucking, what's the app?
Duolingo,
bitch. Like, fuck you. You know, I know so many transracial adoptees who have this experience, who have people come up to them and say, how do I say this in Chinese or whatever? And it's like, I don't know. I was adopted when I was a baby and I only speak English. And it's like this assumption that we all speak different languages, or that we want to share that language with you, or that we want to teach you, is just so presumptuous, and it's so like egotistical. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know a transracial Korean adoptee who, when he was a baby, people came up to his parents and were like, oh my God, are you going to teach him English? His white parents.
Like, versus
what? We only know English. So
and we live in the United States. Why would we teach him Polish?
Right. Do you think he's a phone where he comes pre-programmed with Korean? Like, why are you dehumanizing people?
Right.
Did you come out of your mother's vagina speaking English? Or did you have to learn through school? Why is it different?
Right. Of course not. It's not.
And I feel like a lot of those men who gaslight this situation may not understand, but maybe some of the women can understand. It's the same thing as if a guy came up to you and felt entitled to tell you how pretty you are.
Right.
Like,
it's so uncomfortable.
That's great for you. Keep it inside, away from me.
Why do I need to know that?
I don't have to validate you.
Right.
It's the same thing. Just because you want to guess what kind of Asian I am doesn't mean that you're entitled to an answer.
I'm not a fucking trivia game.
Right.
Okay. Like, well, this isn't, let's make a deal where you get to just guess what I am. And it's like, first of all, why do you need to know? What is it? And I've said this a million times. It's like when people ask me like, oh, are you Korean? And I'll say,
I don't know. Does your fucking carpets match the drapes? Because it's equally inappropriate.
Well, it's like also like, why do you care? Or it's like, let's even get past that question. And I say, yes, I am. It's usually in an effort for them to try to tell me some trivial thing about them and some kind of Korean experience, i.e., I love Korean barbecue, I love BTS, I love Korean dramas. So you actually don't give a flying fuck about me. You just want some kind of segue to talk about you, and I don't care about you.
You know what I love doing? Is yelling at ignorant people. So let's do this now. You want to talk about how you know Asian stuff? Well, I'm going to yell at you about my anger because that's what I like to do. I don't. Sometimes.
I do.
Yeah, sometimes.
I do sometimes.
Inappropriate situations.
But that's what I'm saying is like, it's not about learning cultures and it's not about, cultural connections. Because if it were, the conversation would be very different. You would let me bring it up. Because if I wanted to share my culture with you, I would say, hey, have you ever had Korean food? There's this wonderful place that I go with my family. I'd love to take you there. Or like, do you, like it would come up naturally.
Right.
Like my ethnicity is such a part, it's a huge part of who I am.
Right.
It would naturally come out. And if it wasn't a huge part of who I am, it wouldn't come out, which means in case I don't want to talk about it.
Appreciate things from a distance.
Right.
It's like a
social cues, man.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, just you appreciate things from a distance. And if you have questions, then fucking Google it.
Right. Ed's tougher than me, I think. Surprisingly.
Google it.
Google that
that's
shit.
Why it's there. That's why I don't wear a shirt that says, ask me anything.
Right. Or it's like, if my ethnicity is one of the first 5 questions you want to know about me, then maybe it's not me you want to know about. Maybe it's Korean culture you want to know about. And in that case, fucking Google it. But if you want to know about me, you can ask me where I grew up, what I do for a living. Am I married? Do I have children? Like, what are my hobbies? Like, there's so much more up to me than just that one thing. But that seems to be the thing that so many people want to talk about. And it's like,
true.
It's not about me.
This
isn't about me.
All of those things are information that you're not entitled to as a fucking stranger anyway. So none of those things are fucking appropriate.
I told you he's tough.
You don't just come up to someone and like randomly and be like, oh my God, are you a banker? The fuck you want to know that for? Why do you think it's appropriate to ask them something more private?
Right. Let it come out and just be let it be conversational. If I want to share with you things about me, then it'll come up. And if I want to learn something about you, I will, try to find a way if it's something that I really want to know, if I need to know, or if I don't need to know. If it comes up, it comes up, So I don't know. It's a very, I don't even think it's that complicated. I think people make it complicated. This is a need to know basis. When you need to know, I'll let you know.
It is. Simple. And I think that Konnichiwa woman on the train had a very appropriate reaction.
Agreed.
Because if you want to ask someone something private,
right?
He didn't even ask something private. Well, he insinuated something.
But did he say konnichiwa to every single person on that train in England or in London or wherever they were? No, I guarantee you he didn't. I know he didn't, which is why he was so stunned when she walked up to him and was like, why did you say that? He stammered for so long because he knew he was being a fucking asshole. And his girlfriend, that fucking look on that bitch's face. Oh my God, it made me so furious. This just she just had this disgusted look, how dare you even dare approach me? And I was like, thank God I wasn't on that train that day in London. Thank God. That's the shit that really fucking chaps my ass. I'll tell you right now.
People were like, oh man, if only you were on that train with those 3 Italian girls. And I was like, yeah. Me too. Mm-hmm.
Very different scenario. But it's because we've engaged in so many of those situations so many times over and over and over. It's just you get to a boiling point and you're like, I can't fucking take it anymore. I'm going to go up to you and ask you what the fuck your problem is. Like that girl, that knock girl.
Yeah.
Another video this week for an Asian person.
Which I know a lot of people have been asking us to even respond to.
Mm-hmm. And I did.
You did. I had too much to say in a 3-minute video.
I know. It's such a nuanced conversation and any one thing leads you to the next point. And it was really hard for me to condense it down. And so I kept it very simple, 2 columns. This is how I feel about it. And this is how those 2 columns bridge for me. And that was the extent because there's so much to it. There's so much to it. So
I don't think the vitriol that she got was
proportional to what she did.
Yes, proportionate to what she did. Yes, I do agree that the way that she framed it in the blurbs on the screen did rub me the wrong way as well. Because it almost very seemed like she was trying to villainize him a little bit, while also trying to be cognizant that she's not trying to identify him and all that stuff. But there was that little bit of it obviously came across more of a misunderstanding, I think, but she did skew it a little bit more to be purposefully racist.
Right.
And was he being racist? I think he was.
Yes.
I think it was ignorance-based racism from not being in a very...
That statement, all Asian people look the same, is a racist statement.
It is. And for someone who, for Asian people who get that all the time, and when 99% of it is racist microaggression, it is going to trigger us.
Of course.
But I thought that in the video, she came across like she was trying to calm herself and try to have a bit of a conversation.
Right. There was a lot of nuance to how and what she was doing and the way she was saying it. However, in his response, the way that he responded, and again, we view the world through our informed and our life experiences. So to hear him kind of trip over his words in broken English, to me, I felt this deep sense of empathy for him because I've seen that happen to my dad and my mom, say things and they're kind of stammering and they're trying to find the words. And though what he did was a racist microaggression, there is a possibility that this person doesn't know or was really sorry for what he said. And I don't know that he felt that I don't know that I thought he was getting the opportunity to really express his remorse for saying it. But then, and this is how this happened for me. But then if you look at it this way, and I just kept going back and forth. From her perspective, somebody who's experienced it a million times, that feels like gaslighting. You didn't know?
It was gaslighting.
Right. So there's that.
So the thing, I do think it was generally out of ignorance because he came from a place that was homogeneously not Southeast East Asian. You know what I mean? Because it sounded like he was off camera, obviously, but it sounded like he was either South Asian or maybe like West Asian, like the Middle Eastern. You know what I mean? So I think it did come from that, but what he did respond with was gaslighting. Right. Because we literally just talked about those experiences that we get in the comments. Right. Oh, you misunderstood.
I have a girlfriend that's Chinese.
Right, which is literally the I have a black friend trope. Right. None of that makes it okay. Right. I think the part where it was do you think that if she had framed the video as trying to educate people on even if it is ignorant, I do want to point out that these are still microaggressions. It still is borderline racist, whether you meant it or not. Right. Do you think that she would have gotten as much hate?
I don't. I think if she framed it in the way that she went ahead and gave a synopsis of the situation, talked about what happened, talked about what went down and how it transpired, and then said, I understand these points that he was making. However, from the perspective of somebody who has lived through these experiences, this is why I didn't find those reasons to be an acceptable apology. She is entitled to feel how she feels. She's entitled to accept or not accept that apology. I get that. And I think that's been my whole thing is I can see and sympathize every single perspective in that scenario, from the cab driver and from her. I understand how she feels. I have been in situations that have made me very uncomfortable. People saying very, very racist and, hurtful, degrading, demonizing things to me in a situation where I was kind of a captive audience, or I didn't feel like I had the ability to just leave. Right. But I've also witnessed what happens when somebody is saying something that they don't intend to say in the way in which he said it, which I think conversationally, maybe he was trying to just be oh, I do have a Chinese girlfriend and she's wonderful. And I, in my experiences, have found the culture so welcoming, whatever he was trying to say, which could have potentially came out bad. I don't know. But I think the way she framed it really to the, casual observer just really looked like she was just trying to dunk on this guy.
Yeah. The thing that really bothered me was the amount of reaction videos that were not from an Asian perspective.
Right. I think somebody said that I was one of the only ones that they saw. And I was like, how is that possible?
I even tried to go on the search bar and look for reaction videos, because it actually went to trying to find her profile. And then, obviously all the reaction videos pop up. So I looked through them, and every single one of them were people siding with I know someone who does ride sharing. And I think that was what it was, is that people were relating more to people because ride sharing was so popular during the pandemic versus relating towards this valid Asian experience. Right. And there was one black creator who literally, she said exactly what we're saying. She's I don't understand the amount of hate she's getting. Yeah. She's from what I've understand from watching Asian creators is that this is the type of microaggressions and racism that they face on a day-to-day basis. Right. So she's yes, I understand she could have gone about it a better way, but she's
but she's entitled to feel it.
Yeah, she doesn't deserve the amount of hate she got.
She got a lot.
To the point where she, people are cancel her. People were literally tagging me being cancel her. And I was
why?
For what?
Yeah, I know.
For what? For making a mistake? For not in the amount of time since she experienced, and when she posted it, she had the time to look at it from a
overview. Yeah. And that's the thing too, is I think she posted it in a very, heat of the moment. I'm very upset, and I can't, when you post things, I'm not the kind of creator who wants to post things just to have people be mad. I know people disagree with that and don't think that, but when I post, I don't think ooh, this is going to really piss people off. I actually want the opposite. I don't like it when my page is flooded with vitriol and people fighting and things like that. It makes me it exhausts me. It depletes me in a way that I sometimes feel I just want to crawl under the covers and throw my phone out the fucking window. So I don't think she, they say, nobody argues something because they think they're wrong. You know what I mean? I don't think she thought she was wrong. I think she was I'm going to make an example. I'm going to stand up for myself. I'm going to show you what happens when I'm in situations like this and I get fucking gaslit. I really think that she was, in earnest trying to really make a point. I just think the way she did it and to whom she did it to, and the way she did it was just not as constructive as she wanted it to be.
Yeah, because like if you take away the captions, I think her demeanor was perfectly fine. She was clearly triggered, upset, but still trying to give him the benefit of the doubt while also very clearly stating her boundaries of like, that's fine.
Right.
And I think you have something to learn, but I also don't feel comfortable in your car.
Right.
And, you know, not wanting to identify him and all that stuff, I thought was done fine.
Right.
It was just the captions where some of it was like her slight little twist on like, you know, so a bit of a learning experience, but, you know, hopefully if you're watching this somehow, like I hope you're doing okay.
I know, me too. I think she got so much shit, like, and really like disproportionate amount of shit for what she did. But, you know, I mean, other people are going to have different opinions on that, you know, and that's
like,
fine.
Do I think that the Asian guy that tried to excuse the word Oriental should have gotten more hate?
A little bit.
I mean, compared to what this girl got, like that, both were slightly ignorant, but one was like very damaging.
Well, do you think that has anything to do with misogyny?
Or just the fact that like, people don't want to relate to East Asian people or just like Asian people in general because we're just the perpetual foreigners.
Yeah, maybe. You know, but then, you know, I think I think if she wanted to do what people online often do and like give out his information, get him fired, she would have and could have very easily done that, but she didn't.
Somebody was like, you should have known that in the internet these days, like they can just find anyone. Even if you, like, I mean, they could. A
cab driver or an Uber driver from a car that is completely, she showed no information from?
There's literally those couple of accounts like that one guy who like, people literally are like, find where I am. And he does.
That's crazy. That's scary.
It is scary.
I don't like that at all. But you know, this whole like accountability culture, the accountability culture online now, like those two girls at the baseball game.
Yeah.
What game was it? I don't remember.
Those bitches.
Rangers. But here's the thing.
I think it was in LA.
No. I think it was in Texas.
No, I think they go to USC.
No. Are we thinking about the same people?
Yeah,
yeah, no, I don't think so. We'll fact check that. I feel like they were in like
either way.
A Rangers game, which I think is Texas. I was sports match. I don't know anything about it. Go sports ball game.
Sports ball game.
I don't know. It could be on the fucking moon for all I know. Like literally under the ocean. Texas. See, I told you Texas. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ron, our producer.
Ron. And so then they do this video. They're flipping the girl off and they're laughing at her and like being mean and bitchy. But then the internet, in this swell of accountability, finds their jobs, finds their schools, finds, you know, everything where they live, everything about them. And that to me is like, even that, like, yes, they were being cunty as fuck. But does that mean that now the internet has the responsibility to then ruin their lives, essentially? Oh, shit. Well,
village mentality.
Show's over. Fade to black. We're done.
Damn it. You used it first. On our phone call, Susie's been ending our conversations literally by just saying fade to black.
Because if I don't, we'll talk forever. Clearly, I'm like, okay, I'm fading to black now. Bye. Like, it has to be more subtle and just
so dramatic.
Fade to black. See you later. No, but and I know that like in the heat of the moment, the knee-jerk reaction is fuck them, get up. Like this like mob mentality is getting kind of crazy, I think.
I think there's a line.
There is a line.
There is a line.
But nobody's drawing one. That's the scary thing.
Yeah. Well, some people aren't drawing them. I think a lot of us aren't drawing it, but aren't crossing it, which means that we're aware of where the line is.
Right.
But I think there's a difference between calling them out so that they know that they can't hide their hate and be like, oh, I'm going to do this stuff in secret because like no one's ever going to know. Like that era is over. And I think that's important. I think that it helps people hold people accountable. And it's the similar thing as like me getting kicked out of school.
Right.
I had to go through that to be like, well, I can't be a fucking raging piece of shit. Right. But at the same time, do some people take it over the line where then they throw hate to the businesses and all that stuff? Like that's where I say that's wrong.
But that's the problem is that rational thinking people like us are like, well, it's okay. So I am a small business owner. I have several employees. beyond just like the casual conversation and the work environment, I don't know them. They're more than half my age. I don't like socialize with them. You know, they're not my like friends.
Maybe they should be.
I mean, they're pretty cool. I do love them all. Hey, girls. They're really wonderful. But if one of them turned out to be a closet fucking asshole, how would I know that, right? Unless she got caught on the internet doing some shitty thing. And like the next thing I know, my business is being flooded with negative reviews. I'm being boycotted. I'm getting, you know, all kinds of hate for simply employing somebody that I didn't know was part of something that I had nothing to do with. Like that to me is like a crazy line that I don't know how to draw that, right? Like I know one of the girls in the baseball incident, I guess either worked or was thought to have worked at some real estate company. And they had to like shut all their stuff down, shut their page, shut their reviews, shut everything down because it was getting so out of hand. And I think as content creators who want to expose bad behavior, the question to me is addressing the individual an effective method of conveying the overall idea? And that's just something I'm dealing with. Because I've tried everything. I blur people's faces out. I block all the information. I even say things like, don't send any hate to this person. I am not talking about this person. I am talking about the overarching idea and concept of what this is. And it still happens no matter what I do. And like, I don't know how to stop that.
That's because you just feel a sense of responsibility because
it makes me feel bad.
You're a good person.
It's
but
so
that's
annoying.
the thing is that like even with those Italian girls, from what I understand, there were businesses that they didn't even work at, and girls who had similar names that were getting these threats. And obviously that's bad. I don't want that to happen. But at the same time, that's not on us for calling people out. Like I said, there's a line, and some people just cross that line, and like they're no better than the people who did it because they're projecting their hate, misdirecting it.
But don't we have a responsibility to try to mitigate that somehow?
You did.
I did, but it didn't do enough, you know, or I don't know.
We can't be responsible for everyone, you know.
I know,
because it's either this, right, and this is where. Because it's like, to an extent, it's like a bit of a cultural war. And I'm not saying like collateral damage is right, but it's like because it's either like we either fight for people or let these people win. And maybe that's like a toxic way that I look at it.
It is.
A bit of a male, it is. It's like a bit of a male toxic way to look at things maybe. But to me, it's like, well, someone's a victim, and I'm not going to let these people be a victim.
My brain, and I know that people online, it's really weird. They think that I'm this like super crazy, aggressive, mean, like, and I'm like, isn't there a
I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
Whoa,
you're scaring
calm
me.
down.
In my brain, I'm like, isn't there a way that like everybody can learn the lesson and nobody gets hurt? Like that's kind of what I want. And I know that like there have been videos where I'm like just a fucking total bitch. And that's usually once I've been pushed to the line where I'm like to the limit. That's it. I'm fucking done.
It's all in all of us.
But like, I feel like I have a relatively high threshold for that because like I've just dealt with so much garbage in my life, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And once I get to the point where I'm like, all right, I'm calling out the individual. Fuck you. Here's what I really fucking think. But before I get to that point, I'm like, how can I convey that calling Chinese food a Chinese to me sounds weird without everybody then thinking I'm calling everybody in England a racist? Because I'm not doing that.
I mean, the culture is kind of racist.
I mean, I knew you were going to say that, but I'm just saying is like, it's like, I'm trying to find creative ways to be able to like convey the message, which to me, I think is so much more important. So there was a time where I'm like blurring people's faces out. So like if I'm calling out the individual to then draw attention to a behavior, I blur their face out, I block their name, everything. But even in the cases where I'm not calling somebody out, if I just show someone's face at all, immediately, and it's like, so I can't like talk about people. I can't like address like an individual, be like, hey, I saw that video that you did about Chinese food, and I was wondering, I can't even do that. And it's like, what is going on that the environment can be so dangerous to everybody?
So like what Susie's talking about is there's like the bunch of these videos that I've been seeing it on my FYP
They're everywhere.
Of these, British people eating Chinese food, which, British Chinese food, which I digress. But either way, it's just very confusing to the rest of the world.
Right.
That use spices and flavors. But it's just very confusing because they just like put all these.
Don't rile the English people up again, okay? I'm trying to manage it now.
Direct it here, guys. I don't care.
Don't do that. I don't want that either.
So like, but that's the point that I'm trying to get at is I had the same questions because a Chinese and Indian, in the context of even a Chinese takeout, like still isn't grammatically correct.
Right.
So I asked the same question and I found this one creator. She happens to be an American living in England, and she explained why the food is being poured on while the sauces are being overlapped, why there's curry and fries at a Chinese restaurant.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? I feel like this is a safe space for me to ask in her comments, hey, I just have a question. What is with the Chinese? Because she, as an American person with no British accent, even in her video was like Chinese.
Right.
And towards the end, she's like, even if it's not a Chinese, she's like, maybe you get an Indian.
Right.
So I was like, what is with that?
Right.
And the amount of comments that I got of people telling me, like, they're just saying racist things to me, telling me that I'm reaching for asking a question because I'm trying to learn about your culture.
I literally, in my video, I'm like, so let me just ask you, I know you call it a Chinese. Do you call it an Indian, a Greek, a Mexican, whatever? And so many people kindly said, yes, that's just kind of the verbiage we use. It's a colloquial term that we all use. Fine. So I said, calling it a Chinese, and I was very clear. I said, I know that this is not racist, but it feels racist. Something about calling something a Chinese, a word used to both describe a person and an object, feels weird to me.
Right. Dehumanizing.
Exactly. So to me, when that phrase hits my ear, it just pings weird. And I'm like, that just felt wrong. I don't get it. So I asked the question, the number of people saying you're reaching is like, what am I haven't reached for anything. I'm asking you to reach to me and tell me like what's going on. And the defensiveness was so outrageous. Like that video, I don't even know how many English people have commented that I'm the racist. I need a day off. I went and made the absolute mistake of looking at the filtered comments. It is a fucking mess. So for me just saying, hey, I don't know, when I hear the word a Chinese, it feels kind of racist. The response of people calling me a dog eater and a chink is like, so maybe it is.
It's not racist, you dog eat.
Right.
Self-awareness?
But that is.
Yeah. You're kind of not proving your point.
Maybe the Chinese thing wasn't, but where you went was. So then you were telling me you are.
It is racist because this is what you guys consider not racist.
Right. It was so crazy to me. And it's like, the ability to have like civil conversations about things or to not have people just, fly off and run to other people's.
Which like ironically is hilarious coming from a society that thought they were so advancedly civilized than everyone else that they went around trying to take everyone's properties.
Yeah. And couldn't even,
But that's the point is like, maybe that's where the insecurity comes from, because that's what I was trying to say was even in those comments, the amount of gaslighting, hate, and racism. I mean, I had 2 people, one of whom deleted it, even was like, at least we don't have school shootings. And I was like,
same.
What does that have to do with anything that I'm talking about?
What a crazy out-of-pocket comment. All I said was, hey, do you guys call all food a blank? At least we don't shoot our kids. I'm sorry, what? How did we get there? Like, that's your response? Like, that is so overwhelmingly, like, outrageous.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know where to go.
I mean, I literally was like, do you guys call it, like, a French, an Italian? And the amount of people who were like, no one eats French food here, gross. And I was like, so you guys aren't racist, but
what?
Your answers are very racist. Okay.
It's so weird.
Yeah. And like, again, I'm not saying British people are racist.
No.
But like, let's also not sweep it under the rug. Your whole society has hundreds of years of racism baked into it. So the fact that racism is a default
it's not unusual.
That crazy of an idea.
Or the reaction of somebody saying that something you said could come off as and feel racist. The amount of like hate that I've gotten because of all I said was I know it isn't, but it feels. So if I ever just came out and said, you're a fucking racist, I mean, I can't even imagine what I would get from that.
I mean, it was literally mind-blowing to me to hear the amount of people who were like, that's just how we talk. I don't know why. Right.
Maybe
that's what
yourself.
I'm trying to ask.
Right.
Did you ever ask yourself why?
Right.
Why is it that like England, where English came from, are telling me that it's short for a Chinese takeout, which isn't even grammatically correct.
Right.
And you're telling me that you don't understand why, while the rest of us are being like, I don't know, you guys do it to Chinese and Indian food, two of the places that you colonized for hundreds of years. And then for you to be like, I don't know why we say it's just the whole country. Right. That's my point.
That's what we're talking about.
That's my point.
And like, we're not saying
Did
that
you create the language? Were you the first one to be like a Chinese? Because I don't understand why you're being so offended. Like, it reminds me of the time when like I was a freshman. And again, immature kid, 18 years old. And, I was at the time when I was like, ha, 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 whore this, slut, bitch that. You know what I mean? And my one friend who was a woman, she literally was like, hey, Ed, I love you. And I know you don't mean it, but it's very offensive when you call women whores. She's like, and I know you mean it as a joke.
Right.
But she's
Still
like, it's
not okay.
Very offensive. And I remember in the beginning being like, well, but it's like a joke. And I was like, went home and I thought about it.
Right.
And I was just like, but why is that acceptable?
Yeah.
Why is calling a woman a whore, a bitch, a skank, a slut?
Why is that an acceptable
which
joke?
all of those are negative, shameful things. I was like, why is that accepted?
Right.
And then I did my research into how I asked around about how women are treated. And then eventually I was like, oh, it's baked into society, but I don't have to be that.
Right. Exactly.
It's not, I wasn't like, oh my God, I can't say the word whore anymore.
Right.
Like my whole world, if your whole world is falling apart because of that, you need to fucking reevaluate your whole fucking life.
Right. I totally agree. And there was a woman that responded to my video with a video, and I could see kind of her thought process, because she started by being like, yes, we call it a Chinese and we call it, an Indian. And she's like, oh, but we don't really call it like a Turkish, and we don't call it like a Greek. We say like this specific food. And she's like, huh. And I could see her like thinking like, I don't know why that is. And she even says like, I don't know where the delineation starts. And I was like, so maybe that's part of the explanation right there. Maybe there's a reason why only certain foods get called an A blank and completely take the, yeah, right. And it's not even called food. Because here's how my brain thinks about it, okay?
Wait, real quick. I loved all the people who were like, we call McDonald's a Mackey's. I was like, Mackey's isn't a fucking culture.
Maybe to some people it is.
Oh, that's their whole personality.
Right.
Yeah, we know that.
So the sentence or the phrase is a Chinese takeaway. And in this experience, I've learned quite a bit about Chinese takeaway, and that it's its own thing, and it's got its own kind of relevance, and it's very different from what we know as Chinese takeout. Takeaway and Chinese takeout is different. Takeaway is a freestanding building that does not have seating, and it's purely just for takeaway. There is no restaurant attached. Whereas for us, if we want to order Chinese food, we order Chinese food from the restaurant that also has seating, and then whatever. I've learned things. This has been a very interesting week. The fuck was I talking about? Okay. So the sentence is a Chinese takeaway, right? So the subject is takeaway, the takeaway, a takeaway, which is singularly a takeaway. The Chinese word in the middle is the descriptor, the adjective. What kind of takeaway is it? It is Chinese takeaway. So if in the English language, my objective is to shorten a sentence, I'm going to shorten the sentence by taking away takeaway and a, because a addresses the takeaway. So both of those things have to come off the sentence. Therefore, you get, I'm getting Chinese.
Which is what we say in America.
Right.
Let's go get Chinese. Let's go get Indian.
And the
Italian.
reason, and I kept thinking about this, why it like really bothered me is because, again, the word Chinese or Korean or Mexican doesn't apply to just a food or a noun. It also applies to people. And so when you dehumanize it that way and just call it a Chinese, the way we hear it in the United States.
No, it's not a reach in any language that it's hard to not connect these dots that you at some point dehumanize that whole culture.
Right.
Who cares about the people, the food? It's just Chinese, that's Chinese, that Chinese, like an Indian, like.
It's like saying, I was saying this to you earlier. It's like if somebody that I knew was like, oh, I have a new girlfriend. Oh, really? What's she like? She's a blonde. She's a blonde? A blonde what? Cocker Spaniel? Like she's a blonde? Like, so you're telling me that her blondness is more important and is of more value than you even saying a blonde woman or a blonde man or a blonde person?
Or like those blondies. Those like brownies that are like made out of cookie dough. Like imagine someone was like, let's go get blonde.
Let's go get, you can get a blonde coffee.
And if somebody was just like, do you mean a blonde woman? Because like in America or most other places, we'd be like, oh, sorry. We meant no offense.
Right.
Like, where was that?
Right. It's not there. And like I was saying, like if I said to my husband, like this is why it sounds weird to me. Hey, babe, what are you doing? I'm having an Italian in bed. That doesn't mean I'm eating Italian food to my husband. That means something very, very different, which is why I asked the question.
Yeah, because you're genuinely curious.
I'm like, that's a really interesting phrasing. That's such an interesting thing. And I get it. That's just how they speak. That's just part of their vernacular. Fine. But the way that the way I was met from that response, even after saying so many different ways, I'm not saying it's racist. I put in text, these people I'm saying, don't confuse what I'm saying. I'm not saying they're racist. I even gave the example of tell me something that isn't racist, but feels like it is. Like I couldn't have made it any more clear. But so ask yourself, if I just say the word racist or racism and you instantly get defensive, ask yourself why.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. None of that is your responsibility. All the people that then watched your video and then went to her page and gave her hate when you specifically asked not to, that's not your fault. And not only that, but you also don't know if it's your video that did that, because like most people will watch a video and sometimes be like, oh, I don't know how to feel about this. Maybe go to the comments. And then they obviously saw the disproportionate amount of British people being offensively racist and saying things like that.
Crazy.
Maybe that's what triggered them to then go on and then retaliate towards the wrong person. So even though they're wrong, I don't know that it's necessarily your responsibility.
And that might be the case, but I don't want that either. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want that either. Like, I want to be like the girl in what that Mean Girls were like, I just want to sit around and eat cake and that's when rainbows and smiles and whatever she says.
She doesn't even go here.
Right? Like that's that. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just like I'm getting old and soft, but I'm like, I just want everybody to just listen to each other and learn from each other. Like, why is that so hard? What's the fucking problem?
Maybe this is something that the Brits need to hear, because like, what did you learn? That takeaway was literally in England. It's something different, right?
Yeah, very different. Takeaway. So it's a freestanding building that does not have seating, like I said, and it just serves takeaway food. You don't have the option to eat there. But Chinese immigrants, when they started, realized that they had to start incorporating foods that were more palatable for the general population.
Racism.
And they also, so they fused together fish and chip shops. Fish and chips and Chinese food were sold together. However, there was also this contingent of Indian immigrants who also did the same thing, and they served fish and chips and also with curries. This is from what I've been told. I could be wrong. This is what I've been told. Please don't yell at me if I'm wrong.
Oh, once you're done talking, I'll misdirect that.
Okay.
Redirect that.
And so because of that, a lot of people started enjoying their fish and chips with curry. So then the fish and chip shops with Chinese food and Chinese people started incorporating curries into their foods as well. This was the lesson I was hoping to learn. This is what my driving motivation was. And to have learned that, I'm like, oh, cool. That was a really interesting thing. I didn't know that. But the cost of how I learned it was really, really crazy.
But let's get into that though,
right?
Oh
boy, here we go.
Because like, so the people that were saying were that like takeaways only mostly exist for Chinese and Indian food.
Right.
English, Chinese, and Indian
and
food.
Fish and chips. Chippies.
Right. Which is not a culture.
Right. Which is an actual object. Right. Which differentiates.
So not all British people enjoy British Chinese food.
Correct, of course, just like any food.
They also agree, you know, once they've had actual Chinese food, they're like, why do we eat this? You know what I mean? And that's my second point. Why do you think that Chinese people had to change their food, start selling fries and all that stuff? Do you think it's because British people were immediately like, oh my God, let's respect cultures and try their foods and like try to like change our palates or try different flavors? Do you think that's why? Because I'll tell you the reason why we have American Chinese food in America. It's because of racism. It's because of racism. So like, let's just put all of that together. And even though you don't think it's racism, because apparently you wanted to ignore your culture to be like, we didn't do anything wrong, even though every other country in the world is like, y'all don't remember when you tried to invade my land?
Remember the world?
Right? Exactly. But like, again, just going back to the fact of like, just because that's your culture, did you propagate? Did you appropriate those things? You didn't. So why are you so
adamant,
fucking fragile? There's nothing wrong in being like, imagine you go to your kid and you're like, hey, don't pull someone's hair, that's wrong. And they literally have a temper tantrum. How do you look at that? Or don't you look at that and you go, you have some growing to do? Because that's how the fucking rest of the world is looking at this whole scenario. And that's the reason why it's all in our FYPs, is because of the rest of the world. All of us collectively are like, the fuck?
Right.
Seriously, what the fuck?
Right. Well, and that was a whole other thing too, is like watching somebody pour curry sauce and a lot of it on top of all of this rice and fries and all that stuff.
And stuff with sauce already on it.
Right. Even that, to me, I was taken aback. And I asked the question, and because I'm fully aware about how things get Americanized or Englishized or whatever. Is that, I don't know how to say that.
Britishized.
British. I mean, how it gets.
Vanilla.
How things have to change and adapt. So my thought was, I find it very interesting that in order to adapt.
Oh, wait, it's colonized.
Jesus. In order to adapt Chinese food to the English and British palate, they had to add Indian food to it. Like, because my brain was like, I would think that they would want to add something like gravy. That would make sense to me, like a beef stock gravy, which is popular in English food. I would think that that's where that would come from. That's what they would do. But instead, it was curry. That's interesting to me. And like, I found that something I wanted to understand.
So the Chinese people basically had to be like, oh, they're still not eating our food even after we're serving fish and chips. So like, oh, they're starting to at least take to Indian food, so I guess we'll just have to adapt.
Well, because the Indians have already adapted their curries to the palate of the English, so let's just put that and just pour a fucking gallon on it.
All of it is racism.
So let's just pour a fucking, 3 pints on top of that and, whatever. And like, go to town. If you love it, fucking love it.
No shame.
Part of me is probably like, I could try that. I could dip fries in curry. Like, I get that. Like, that makes sense to me. That could be delicious. I don't know. I think the copious amounts of sweet and sour and curry sauce that I've seen poured on food is like, that's just too much sauce for me. That's just so much sauce. So like, but I get it. But for people to say like, how dare you question us about our food and our culture? I'm like, I'm not questioning why you eat it. I'm questioning like how it came about, food history. And like, I wouldn't have known this had it not been for people who I asked the question to, who took the time to actually make a video explaining it to me. This wonderful Indian woman was explaining how certain parts of Northern England have more, Indian people, and certain parts of other places have Chinese people, and those things just I found that all incredibly interesting, which was my point to begin with, but people wanted to make it about something so different. And it's like...
Because they know. In their heart, they know.
Right. It's like when, you call a kid out for doing something bad. They're like, no, I didn't do that. No, I didn't. You did something bad. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it's okay. Just own that shit. Like,
but the fact that you did it and then immediately started getting defensive kind of tells me that you knew it was bad.
Right. Exactly. And so many people are like, you're right. Why do we call it a Chinese, or why do we call it a Indian? That's something I've had people say, like, I've never thought about it. That's so weird. Or people just pass it off.
The more you know.
Or people just pass it off as like, well, that's just what we've always said. Okay, but you know what? Sometimes language can evolve and sometimes language can change once you understand the origins of what it was, like the whole whore thing. Once you understand why it's a problem, there are so many words I've removed from my vocabulary.
It didn't define who I was, and if it does, then that's the problem.
Then maybe you're just not that interesting, man.
Right.
You know, like there are words that I've used in my life that I look back on now and I'm like, oh my God, had I known where that came from and how that started, I would never use that. And I don't. I've completely removed certain words from my vocabulary.
Or euphemisms, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Because it's important if you want to be part of a society that's functioning. Sometimes you got to make changes and adjust, and it's okay. Look at me. I didn't spontaneously combust because I took a word out of my, vocabulary. But, the internet will do what the internet does. And it's just...
ignorant people will do what ignorant people do.
Ed is on one today, you guys. Ed is fucking on
I am telling you, this has been my whole week. It is... Ba-boom. Ba-boom? I don't know.
It's more like kablooey.
Kablooey. Kablam.
This is what you get. You guys, you pushed Ed to the limit, and now we're here, we're doing it.
Yeah. Now I am in Power Ranger form. Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Is that racist? No, I'm just kidding. And I feel like because the way the internet functions is such a new thing.
Oh, I was like, why is that racist? And I was like, oh, because it's Japanese. Right. I was like, Tyrannosaurus Rexes aren't racist.
It was also just the gesture. I was like,
oh no, that's Power Rangers.
No, I know.
I'm also just a geek. Nerd? Right. I don't know, whichever the least offensive one.
Are you allowed to say either of those anymore? I don't even know.
Nerd, yes. I am a nerd.
Okay. And I think that's kind of what is gives me pause, is to just kind of watch the landscape of the internet change and watch how it's being used, and like the way that, it's such a wonderful tool, right? It's the dark side, light side. It's like, it's such a great tool. We've learned so much. So many wonderful things have come from the internet, like things that I would have never learned about the takeaway place without.
Yeah.
But conversely, like there's so much fucking
no one's
garbage.
Saying you can't make mistakes.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Course.
But like, it's like Susie says all the time, it's what you do with that information after you know.
That makes all the difference.
That makes all the difference. And when people bring up the fact that, like, remember when you guys like colonized India and Hong Kong, and you retort with, but you're a dog eater?
Right.
That makes you a shit person.
Don't do that.
And then I might treat you like shit.
Kablooey.
Yeah. Fuck around and find out. No, I'm just kidding.
There's so much finding out. Everybody's finding out. And I think that's what makes me anxious, is like watching all these people like find out.
Oh, no. You know what it is? I know what it is.
What?
It's because it's day 2 of AAPI month, AAPI month, and I'll be goddamned. I am not putting a filter on this month. If you do shit, I'm going to call you the fuck out.
Oh, boy.
I'm like on super Asian Lanty mode. That's an Asian vigilante for those of you who can't connect.
Vigilation.
Vigilation. Or is it more of a dark sound? Like, I don't know,
Do we have a dark sound?
Crickets? I don't know. Crickets?
I think it should be the surprise sound. Vigilations. And that's the thing, is like, I understand wanting to right the wrongs. That's what we want. That's what we try to do all day, every day. The only thing that I think I have a hard time with is that, like, I can't, not control, but like I have no control once it gets out how to mitigate wronging the wrongdoer and how far the wrongdoer goes. Wrong. Tweety bird with like stars.
What is happening?
But you know what I'm saying is like, some people, there's just like no cap to it. There's no, and I don't mean cap in the like super Gen Z way.
No.
I mean like lid.
Yeah.
Like an actual like lid.
I mean, some of you guys act like you reach your intellectual ceiling at the age of 8. Like, you're talking to our listeners. Our listeners are smart and wonderful. Oh, no, I don't mean our listeners. I mean the people who talk like this and get defensive. Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing, is like, to be able to I can only control what I can control. And I say that all the time. And I can only control like how I disseminate ideas and thoughts and, you know, shed light on things that I think are problems. But the issue with that is like, I can't control what happens afterwards. And then sometimes, I don't want to say I feel bad, but I just like watch it unravel. I'm like, Jesus, it's so far beyond anything I can control now. And that to me feels dangerous. It feels dangerous to watch, you know, the two girls at the baseball stadium's lives just completely implode. And I don't say that they didn't deserve it because they're fucking.
Once that apology video.
Yeah, once that apology came out.
Video, yeah, I was like, ooh, yeah, no. Yeah, you deserve it.
Maybe you did have it coming. And if you didn't have it coming then, you got it coming now.
Yeah, because it seems like you didn't learn.
Right.
So whatever fallout keeps happening, like at some point, hopefully you're going to be like, you know, maybe we shouldn't have done that.
But like I said before, it's not the fallout on the girls themselves.
Yes.
It's what happens, the peripheral fallout, the peripheral collateral damage.
Like
that's
the
like
Italian
the issue.
girls, I guess some people were going after the wrong businesses or even the wrong people who had similar names.
I saw a girl, I think her name was Gabriella. Was it? I can't remember now.
One of the Italian girls' name was Margarita.
Which
is, you know, ironically hilarious.
Margarita.
Because I said pasta is a whole personality. And
it's pizza.
It was literally your name.
And
identity.
I saw a girl whose name was Margarita, and I went to one of her videos, and it was like 46 views, and no, it was like, you know, 46 likes, and then like 1,800 comments. All half of them saying, fuck you deserve this, blah, blah, blah. And then the other half being like, this is not the right person. Stop what you're doing. And it's like, man, just the machine, once it starts going, you can't stop it. And that to me feels like scary. So like, you know, we have to, for me, you can do whatever you want, Power Ranger. For me, I'm like, how do I negotiate all of this that's happening?
No, I mean, I feel you. I'm being very...
in his
combative.
Moment.
I'm being very combative. What is the word I'm looking for here?
You're being contrarian?
Yes, contrarian. Thank you. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, you love that.
I do. You know, I like to show all sides of everything when it's not bad.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I like to debate, you know, on the right side. But I don't remember where I was going with this. I just like to debate, but at the same time, it's like we can't.
I know, and I put the idea out there just so that hopefully, like as a collective, we can find a fair way to do the appropriate thing by, you know, telling somebody that their behavior is problematic and troubling and hurtful and disrespectful and all these things without like, and that's the hard part, right? Like I want so many people to hear my message, but I only want the people who won't do crazy shit to hear the message. I don't want people to get, you know, death threats. I don't want people to get, you know, hateful messages. Like I woke up this morning and I opened my messages and I was like, God, why are there so many? There were a lot. Some of them very kind. I just wanted to tell you about the chippy shops and the takeaways. Fine. Some of them were not that kind, you know, and
share them. I'm just kidding.
Power Ranger Ed, you're doing the most today. You're doing the most.
I am doing the most. I am in a very heightened sense of being aware. Just very heightened right now.
So I don't know. I mean, I put this out to you all, you know, like how do we do what we do without it being something we don't want it to be, which I just don't want it to be this just like hate machine. You know, I've never wanted that. I've never wanted that. And I don't want that now. So I don't know how to educate people or even just highlight things. I can't say shit. I can't say anything without it just becoming such a huge problem.
Like I keep saying, it's like, I don't think it's on us. Some people are just angry or they're triggered or they're misdirecting their anger. And like, that's about them. And just because they're on the right side doesn't mean that they're necessarily going about it the right way. They're still being problematic and wrong. And I'm not condoning any of that stuff. You know what I mean? Like even just death threats at all.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the stuff people say, and I get them all the time. You know what I mean? So it's just like,
it's really crazy that people would do that.
It is crazy.
It's so crazy.
Sometimes like people do it publicly. You know what I mean?
You want me to die?
Yeah.
You want me to leave this world because I don't understand why it's called a Chinese?
Yeah.
You want me to basically have my children not have a mother because I said, I don't know why, but this makes me feel weird or like whatever. Like that's crazy.
But I mean, even for those like racist people, like you still shouldn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
wish
of course.
that level of harm
That's
on them.
outrageous.
All of that is unnecessary. It's wrong. It's very bad. We don't condone any of it. We never asked you to do any of it. But again,
and please don't. Please don't.
That's out of our control, outside of us telling people not to do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's just, I don't know, because it's like someone is going to suffer. And why did all of that start is because of the person that's being called out. You know what I mean? So it's
so dark.
It's really on them.
So dark.
And like, maybe it's time for people to realize that like like the things you do and say affect more than the people that you're talking about it to. It'll come back and it might affect you, your family.
But can't you say that about us? Me calling out somebody's bad behavior somehow then gets turned around and comes back to me because I have now, but you know, even when I'm not calling out bad behavior, even when I'm saying somebody is good.
Yeah, but that's not coming around on us. That's someone directing their hate towards us.
But that's still, it doesn't change the outcome.
I don't know. I kind of disagree.
Now I'm going to be on one.
I slightly disagree because like, fuck those people is what I say.
I don't disagree with that. We're not arguing about that. Oh, good. I thought that was going to be way worse.
Yeah. I say just fuck those people, you know?
Yeah. Anyway.
Fade to black. But that wasn't also all the bad, you know? It is, like I said, AAPI month.
Yes.
And maybe part of the reason why we are having such a passionate conversation about it is because it's like, of all the months.
Yeah.
I mean, it's never right.
Right. And it never not happens.
Right. It never not happens. But it's just like, of all the times to not be a dick, it's like on your birthday is probably the worst day to do it.
Right,
you know,
right,
like,
right.
fuck you. So like, maybe that's where we're at because like this month is already kind of weird.
Isn't it like day 2?
It is day 2.
Fuck, man.
It is literally day 2. But the thing about AAPI Heritage Month is that like, why is an Asian American Heritage and Pacific Islander Heritage Month? It's not AAPI Heritages Month.
Right. Well, because racism.
Right.
Let's just clump everybody together. Yeah, you guys all have dark hair and eyeballs. You're all one group. It's like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I think there should be a lobby to separate them and give them each their own, time.
And it's not just, oh my God, we're different. So like, no, it's not about that at all.
Right.
It's just, we keep getting lumped together and it's not that I don't mind being lumped together.
Yeah.
You know, I
think Pacific Islanders are the fucking shit.
Yeah,
I think they're awesome.
They literally, a lot of Asian people literally immigrated to Hawaii because of how comfortable they felt not being amongst so much whiteness. You know what I mean? So I will forever be grateful for for Native Hawaiians and, everyone else, like even in Guam and all the Pacificas. But it's not about that. It's about the fact that like, because these people had their land taken away from them, they suffer different types of struggles than we do. And it's not fair to group them together because they get lost in the system.
Right. Or they don't really necessarily get their time to shine in the way that they should. And like you were saying, because their struggles are different than
like
ours.
For instance, during COVID, because they were being grouped in with Asian people who, part of our privilege sometimes, especially on the East Asian side, is that like we do have, are able to kind of climb the ranks a little bit. And because they were being grouped in with us, they weren't getting the resources that their community needed, which is the reason why Pacifica people in the United States got COVID at 7 times higher rate than white people and even Asian people. So like for those reasons, that's the reason why, not because like we don't want to be inclusive, none of that. It's because they need to be identified correctly. And like someone was arguing with me in the comments and
Aren't they always?
The analogy, and of course it was an Asian person, but the analogy I gave them was that it's the same thing as school. Imagine grouping all high schoolers the same and giving them all the same curriculum, regardless of grade, age, and their abilities. You know what I mean? Like, depending on a 9th grader and a 12th grader, they shouldn't be taught the same things.
Right. Well, you're saying the difference between equality and equity.
Right.
Right. You're talking about like equality is when everybody is the same, but equity is when people are different and you allocate different things in order to serve their needs. Right. It's very different.
So that everyone has the same opportunities. Right. But you know what I mean? It's like giving a step ladder to someone who's 6'1" and someone who's 5'3".
It's like that. I think it's like a cartoon of it. Like
it's from The Growing Tree.
Yeah. Oh, something like that, where the kids are trying to all look over the fence. So they're saying this is what equality is. All the kids are all of different heights. Equality is you give them all 3 books to stand on, but the shorter kids still can't see over the fence. But just the taller kid can.
They all equally got 3 books.
Right. But that's not equity. No. Equity is the kid that's the shortest gets a number different than the tallest kid because they need more books in order to look over the fence.
So that at the end, they're all looking over the fence at the exact same level. Right.
That's equity.
Making
That's
sure
very
that
different.
Everything's actually fair.
Right. Or like there's that one like video, I think it's a coach, and he's like, you guys all have to run across the finish line, but you can only take steps if I ask you these questions, and then you can go. They all started in the same exact place, but not everybody got to the finish line at the same time. That's the difference between equality and equity. And I think that's is a really important conversation that people don't really understand what the difference is.
They don't want to understand, or they don't need to understand, you know? So,
But we're really excited for AAPI Heritage Month. I know I am. I haven't really had a chance to even talk about it yet because I've been having duels with the Brits. White gloves. Isn't that what the thing?
A revolution, if you will.
But I'm really excited for this month, and I hope you guys are too, and I know you are too. Isn't it next week?
It is next week. We have a really special guest next week.
Oh my G. It is
Oh my G. What the fuck does that even mean?
Oh my G, it's a big one. And I know I am excited, borderline intimidated for our guest next week. They are a person that I deeply, deeply admire. And to have them come on during AAPI Heritage Month is like so perfect. I can't believe they even said yes, because we're dorks.
Definitely know who this person is.
Yes.
And
you love them.
You love them. Probably want to eat some of their food.
Don't give it away, man.
That's it. That's what I was going to say. You probably want to eat some of their food.
And they are such an inspiration to so many people for so many different reasons. And I think they are just an absolute like powerhouse. And like I said, I don't get intimidated by a lot of people. I really don't. But this person, I'm like, I really hope they like me. I really hope they want to be my friend.
Get a hold of yourself, lady.
You feel exactly the same way. Don't bullshit me.
Yeah. Mine is when we're like.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm sorry, Ed hasn't spoken for the last 15 minutes. He's starstruck.
Hi.
I want to be a friend to you. Me and your friend.
Hey, Ed, are you going to say something? We're 45 minutes in. Hi, I'm Ed.
They're amazing. And we are hyping them up with absolutely, the hype is absolutely warranted. Believe me.
Because we want you to pay attention and listen.
You're gonna want it. Don't miss that one. Okay. So.
But other than that, we do want to thank you for this very random conversation that we've had today. But it's not random.
Purged. I feel cleansed until I go pick up my phone and look at the comment section. It's going to be a disaster.
You mean until you go home and have to face
clean up
all of that throw up?
Vomit.
It's like that Family Guy episode where like they all start throwing up because one is throwing up.
Yeah.
And then they're all throwing up.
I'm there. Okay.
That is your world. Sorry.
Isn't it always? Diarrhea, vomit, poops. Oh, motherhood. Yay.
But thank you for tuning in. You can find us on all the socials.
You can find me at Soogia1 on TikTok and Instagram.
You can find me at Etch a Sketch with a J on everything. And you can find us at WhatintheShibal on most things as well. But if you are watching on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that bell.
Ring-a-ling-ding. I changed it up this week.
Okay. But other than that, thank you for tuning in. Oh my God, that's like the 4th time I've said that. Blah, blah, blah. We really appreciate you.
We do.
And we'll see you on the next one.
Yay.
Okay, bye.
That was a great one. I felt good about it.
Yeah.
Ring-a-ling, ding-dong.
Ding-a-ling-a-ling.
It just came out. I don't know what happened.
Ding, ding.
Oh, God.
Bing.
981 comments.
Oh, God. Since the last time you checked in? Mm-hmm. This is also the reason why we don't respond to comments sometimes.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go see all 982 like that.
And
Bye.
cleared.